welcome to All Things Nate. Today we're talking about health and fitness, exercise, eating right, and how with an ADHD brain, the less I do those things, the less I want to do those things and recognize that I should do them more. I'm trying to lose 30 to 40 pounds. So a little bit of backdrop to that. COVID hits. I start working from home. I decide I want to exercise and I fixate on kettlebells. Now, kettlebells were incredibly hard to find, but I tracked one down after about 3 to 4 weeks of looking for one. So I'm doing kettlebell exercises 2 to 3 times a week for about 8 weeks, I think. And all of a sudden, the pain I'm having in my shoulder is just ridiculous, and I know I've done something to it. So I go to the doctor, we do physical therapy, we get an x-ray. In the end, we ultimately find I have arthritis where a previous labral tear didn't heal right. So now the doctor tells me the problem's arthritis, these are the things you can't do, have a nice day. Doesn't tell me what I can do. So I'm unmotivated to everything, and I spend the next year plus not exercising in any way, shape, or form. Because yes, I'm mowing my lawn, but I don't count that. I'm not doing intentional exercising. I've also always been terrible about being self-disciplined about eating habits, okay? I'm also not getting outside much. I'm not even walking to my desk from a parking lot. So I'm just in this very static place in my life and in my health and exercise. So earlier this year, I go to my doctor and complain of my hip hurting. Doctor ultimately does an x-ray, go to an orthopedic, determine a little bit of a bone spur, but you've got arthritis there now too. Now this doctor was fantastic though. He says, not only do I have arthritis, and not only am I not 40, so we are not talking about replacing for decades, but he then told me what I could do. He said, don't run, that's dumb, but cycle and swim as much as you want. So I have a bike now, I have a membership at the gym, I've gone swimming twice a week for the last 4 weeks. As part of that, I have accountability with 3 different guys that I'm messaging every time I go and letting them know when I plan to go again and keeping me on track with that. So that's all great and good and the things that I need. Now the other thing that he told me that I corroborated with another health professional in my life that was fascinating to me and super motivating is when we're doing life and we're just walking around and moving, we put pressure on all of our joints. So for every pound we lose, we're going to take 3 to 4 pounds of pressure off our spine, 5 pounds of pressure off our hip, 7 pounds of pressure off our knees, and 10 pounds of pressure off our feet and ankle. Seriously. So if I lose 20 pounds, I take 100 pounds of pressure off this hip that every time I mow, I sit down for about 10 minutes and then I can't walk for a while because it hurts so bad and it's so stiff. Yes, please. So yet another motivator for exercising and losing weight. Now the other half of losing weight is not just exercising, it's eating right. I've always been terrible about being self-disciplined about my eating. Now, I discovered years ago that I have a severe nickel allergy. So most people with nickel allergies, you wear a necklace or a bracelet or watch that has stainless steel on it and you'll break out in a rash. I do that too. The difference is mine's severe enough that when I ingest food that's high in nickel, which is more than you would realize, I will actually get sick in my gut because the allergy is so severe. So that has always made eating healthy, I have no motivation to eat healthy because it is so much work to figure out not only what's healthy, but then do it in a way that I'm not also making myself sick with the nickel allergy. Now, I acknowledge that's an excuse and I need to do it and I can do it and I'm going to have to do it, but it's been a lot of what has kept me from eating right for as long as I have is the motivation doesn't exist because it's so much work. And frankly, in the grocery stores I frequent, it's expensive to eat healthy, and it's cheaper to eat like junk. So the other piece, I want to shift over to the ADHD side for just a minute, and then we'll come back. So I'm not medically diagnosed ADHD. My parents chose not to have me tested as a kid. As an adult, I actually went to a doctor to be tested, went through the testing, and they came back and said, nope, you don't have ADHD, but you might want to be tested for anxiety, OCD, and depression. Great. So, after I picked myself up from what felt like rejection of my very existence, I continued to research and continued to watch videos and learn from, I mentioned last time, How to ADHD, but also doctors who are experts in ADHD in their field, who talk about the fact that, look, if you're an adult trying to be tested, it's not uncommon to be misdiagnosed for depression and anxiety instead of ADHD. Because as adults, there's areas in which we've had to learn how to compensate for the way our brain works. It doesn't change that it's how our brain's working, but it's harder for medical professionals to see it for what it is. So I self-assess as ADHD, but what that means here as we're talking about this today is I can't go to a doctor and say, hey doc, how can you help me with my ADHD? How can you help me focus? How can you help me be able to zone in on the things that I want to, not just the things that my brain chooses to find worth its attention, right? So I Google, I YouTube, what are natural things that I can do to help my ADHD symptoms? And most of the time, the vast majority of articles and videos that I find are exercise consistently, eat healthy consistently get outside and get fresh air so that you've got the fresh oxygen, you've got your blood pumping, you're eating well. So that's the thing. And guys, what I'm not saying is that because I have ADHD, oh, my life is so much harder than yours, right? I acknowledge this is hard for everybody. I mean, in a post-COVID world, even in pre-COVID, but a post-COVID world, so many of us are working from home. A lot of us aren't eating healthy, aren't exercising regularly, and we're struggling with the health and fitness portion of our lifestyles. Not everybody, but plenty of people, ADHD and not alike, are having these struggles. So here's what I'd like from you guys. Post in the comments. What are you doing? What are some life hacks you've found where you've found success in being consistent in eating right, exercising regularly, getting outside? What are the things that help motivate you to do that? If you are struggling with those things, love to hear that too, because we all need to know that we're not the only ones, but that we also want to find progress and work through this and not just stay where we're at, where we're struggling. If you have any topic suggestions, whether it's a lead off of anything I've talked about today or completely out in left field, feel free to post those in the comments as well. As always, if it catches my attention, I'll make a video on it. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider subscribing, click that bell icon for notifications, and I'll see you next time on All Things Nate.